I'd like to welcome committee members. Welcome the committee members, the CCO representatives and others in attendance and online. In terms of apologies, we have received an apology from Paul Edgeworth. And noting that, I'd like to resolve that the apology we received and accepted. Thank you. These declarations of interest are welcome to the meeting. There are no changes to the interest register. Note, thank you. There are no urgent items that are not on the agenda. Like that. Brings us on to the minutes of our last meeting, which was dated the 27th of March 2025. Are the committee members happy to accept these as a true and accurate record of the meeting?
Happy to vote that.
Thank you. And therefore, I can approve that my digital signature is added to the confirmed council organisation. That is our committee meeting minutes of the 27th of March 2025. Now, moving on to the action list, which we have received. I would like to just check through progress against those actions, please. And those in papers. So the first one was in regard to the chair of West Roads will provide the committee with further information on the split between Christchurch, Cranbourne and Tonkatika. That will happen in an offline discussion separately. The next one is a detailed report on the Tonkatika Wildfoods Festival will be provided to the committee. You can note that we have received this morning a detailed report on the Wildfoods Festival. The report will be circulated to the council members post this meeting, and that will lead on to further discussions around it. Thank you for the progress in preparing that report. And it is a substantial step in the right direction we're hoping to continue to develop. The next is item 3, Destination Western financial returns for individual businesses. Financial information to be split to get a clearer picture of financial returns of each business. Chris, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, we have in the quarterly update split out the profit and loss and are now working through the balance sheet for the SOI. We'll have that organised as well. But today you'll see in the quarterly update that aviation has been split out.
Yeah. And so the next move will be to provide those earnings against the asset bases that are employed. And Chris, again, as chair of Destination Western, provide information on the specifics of deferred tax liability to the committee, please.
Yeah, I'm going to hand over to Mel to take you through that explanation.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for the opportunity to try and explain to non-accountants what is actually a very complex thing for even those in compliance and in business advisory. The deferred tax, what it really means first off is that it's not a bill to inland revenue. So I just want to make that very clear. Our $2.5 million deferred tax liability is a non-cash accounting adjustment required under the financial reporting standards. Now you're probably asking, why does that even exist? So the revaluations that we completed in 2023 saw an uplift of our asset base by about 7.7 million, around say $8 million. Wherever there is other comprehensive income, there needs to be a tax entry completed, and that goes against deferred taxation. The revaluation on those assets is not something we will be taxed on should those assets ever be sold, first and foremost. I think I need to make that very clear. It is to show the value of the assets on the books. If an asset is sold greater than the cost minus depreciation, it's first off, you have your depreciation recovery portion, which would be a taxable thing. Anything over and above that sits under capital gains, and as you know, in New Zealand we do not have a capital gains tax. So I just want to put the committee and council and others at rest that this is not a tax liability that we will pay. There is an additional amount of deferred tax liability sitting on the balance sheet. Now that actually stems from the difference between accounting standards and tax standards. Under accounting standards, we depreciate our assets on a straight line valuation basis, which means that they're depreciated over the life of the asset. So you have an even split of depreciation. Under tax principles, assets are depreciated under diminishing value, which means that they have, say for example, you have a $100 asset and your DV is 20%. In that first year, you will claim $20 of depreciation. The next year, your opening book value is $80 and you claim 20% of $80 rather than 20% of the 100. So it's just a difference in the two standards.
Thank you for a very full and complete explanation. I will refrain from quizzing committee members to test them on that. Thank you. Thank you very much, Al. Item 5, again, back to you, Chris, in terms of the item of $105,000 which was raised as assets under construction at the previous meeting.
Yeah, so that is to do with the feasibility report we did for the extension of the airport. So it's not, it's not capital as such. So I just want to be clear on that. It's just that cost is sitting at this point, based on what we spent in regards to getting organised for the extension of the runway.
Those, thank you. Those costs will be capitalised as part of the project.
Yes. Yeah. Not a separate capital item that we make.
Thank you. Again, back to you. Update on the appointment of a new chair for Destination Westland. I think that's probably something that I can probably best speak to. That is in progress at the moment, and we will be discussing further in a public excluded section later. First candidates that the Institute of Directors have forwarded through to us. So we will cover that on. Back to you for item 7, aeronautical fees, an update on the negotiation of the aeronautical fees review. Thank you.
Yeah, so what I can say is that through the chair, I did reach out to Her Worship as well to take through this process, just to get an understanding. We are currently in consultation with our RPT, a regular passenger transport provider. The terms of that are confidential as we go through that consultation process. The timeline for that to be settled is the 30th of June, and we will see a change in our landing fees from 1 July.
Are there any questions?
Through the chair, is that an annual process or is that a 3, 5, 10 year sort of piece?
Yep. So it's not an annual process. It comes out of when there's a major capital infrastructure development, like we're currently undergoing, or sort of every 5 years under the new Civil Aviation Act as well. Under Section 230 and 231 of the new Act. It has been something in process previously. There are a multitude of reasons why that hasn't been done on a more regular basis. What we're looking to achieve out of this consultation is to have a program in place that sees a more incremental change over the next period of time.
Supplementary. Would we then expect to hold that same fee for the next 5 years, or once the project's completed in, say, another year or 2 years' time, will that change again?
So we're currently going through what any uplift will be and the annual increases following that. Once that has been determined, then we can confirm.
The estimated increase in value has been included in the negotiation now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to answer the question, for regulating areas, which come under a light regulatory regime, they set fees on a 5-year basis. And in setting the fees over 5 years, they do a forward projection of all of their capital, OpEx and maintenance costs. And that goes into the equation where they are entitled to make a recovery on those costs. But that's done 5 years.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On to item 8, the draft letter of expectations to be presented to council. That has taken place. And finally, an update on the work plan we provided to the committee. I have discussed that with council staff this morning, and it would appear that due to the election coming through in the latter period of this year, this is likely to be the last it's likely to be the last meeting of the CCO Oversight Committee meeting within the current contract. Unless we can squeeze in a meeting before the election. But I don't think that there will be value in that, because we won't have the July, August, September results in time to warrant having a meeting. Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion on any of those actions? Is there any further items arising from the minutes of the last meeting that have not been captured in the actions that need to be discussed? Okay, thank you. So then I'd like to resolve that the action must be received. Do we have a mover? Thank you. And a seconder? You got those? We can now move on to item 6 on the agenda, the presentations. And here we will be asking the boards and executives of the 2 CCOs to present their quarterly presentation. And I'd like to start with West Roads, and I invite Mark Rogers and John Kelly, the General Manager, to speak to the report, please.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Your Worship, committee members and officers. I'll give a summary of the Chair and General Manager's report. Regarding financial results for the quarter, significant points in the March quarterly report 2025 are revenue was up on budget by 533,000, net profit for tax is 659,000, and net budgeted profit of 1 million. Bank debt is 2.4 million, compared to 3.7 million last year. Equity has increased by 1.2 million to 11.7 million, while the equity to assets ratio has increased from 55% to 61% between March 2024 and March 2025, which puts us in a position of 4.9% return on equity. Regarding commentary, operational variances between actual and year-to-date budgets are as follows. Income was above budget in Hokitika and Christchurch. Greymouth Utilities maintenance has taken longer to get in than budgeted, with lower revenue and margin. Margins in the Christchurch market have been tightening, and forward work volumes are decreasing due to increasing competition for limited work. Quality issues in Christchurch also led to rework and a deterioration in job margin, reducing bottom line profit. At a group level, our profit for the January to March 2025 period was neutral. There was a significant focus on the Greater District Council Parks and Reserves tender, while project manager training and process improvements have been actioned regarding quality issues. Corporate level milestones for the quarter included the annual review of the company's strategic plan, approval of the management business plans, completion of the draft SOI, presentations through the CCO Oversight Committee, and engagement with our shareholder over director recruitment. There were no lost time and no notifiable incidents to WorkSafe. There was one lost time injury reported in January with the employee making a full recovery and return to work. For perspective on that, that was grazes to the hand that became infected due to the wearing of gloves. Critical risks continue to be monitored and take 5's had an increase in focus. The annual staff survey was completed. Within the business, both the financial controller and West Coast operations manager concluded their employment. Placement processes have been initiated for both roles with a successful appointment to the latter position made. Subsequent to this report being written, Andrew Anderson, an internal appointment, has been promoted from the role of company accountant to finance manager in a restructure of the oversight function for finance. Looking ahead to the next 3 months, the tender market continues to tighten with margins dropping. The board and management are focused on operational efficiencies and cost control as we navigate our way through this period. There is renewed focus on stakeholder and customer engagement. Board and management training on health and safety obligations is being conducted with an external health and safety specialist. The board is also reviewing the letter of expectation in conjunction with the statement of intent, while management is focused on tender activity and quality job delivery. Subsequent to this, we have also responded to the letter of expectation, noting that we are currently fulfilling all the obligations set out in the letter of expectation, with the request around commercial sensitivity being managed. We look forward to engaging with Western District Council and the Oversight Committee regarding these matters. On the next page, we have the performance measures for the 9 months. 3 of the 4 items, the notifiable incidents, the TRIFA, and the improving staff retention are all on track, with the training expenditure as a percentage of revenue being slightly behind our target. And I welcome questions.
Through the chair, good to see revenue up $500,000, obviously profit down. Do you see a recovery in that in the last quarter of the financial year?
I see it being tighter and tougher.
Any predictions on that impact on the pension payment to us at the end of the year?
I'd be anticipating we'll pay our budget and dividend to we've managed to pay down debt, strengthen the equity position, so we can ride this through it.
It's a good step to have taken, getting into that debt, reducing that. I mean, you know, considering the market we're in, it's actually not too shabby a result, as let's say. And you know, the pressure's on you guys as far as the market goes. So yeah, almost an opposite, maybe out what it is.
I think the sector is cyclic, and at the moment, the cycle, we are really fairly and squarely at the bottom of the cycle, and we can expect to see progressive improvement over the next 6 months is what most commentators are looking at. Hopefully you start to enjoy and see some small lift and green shoots in the business over the half year.
That would be nice.
If there are no further questions on Westroads, we will move on. So I need to resolve that the Westroads quarterly report for March 2025 be received. Mover and seconder. Thank you. Thank you. We move on then to the Destination Westland Limited quarterly presentation and invite Chris Curley, the Chair, to speak to this report.
Through Mr. Chair, we'll work through it, obviously take as read, we'll do a quick summary of the key outputs. We look at the comprehensive income. We are ahead of budget, which is a good result, working our way through. Our debt levels are currently flat or similar to where we've been. We do actively have a program to start reducing some of our debt through a few different avenues, so it's a real focus for the board and management. we wander through further, we have now split out the aviation portfolio, and we've put a few samples of movements, etc., in there as well. So you can see aviation accounts for 38 of the total profit, and it is up on budget, sorry, on last year. Total movements through the airport have lifted over the period from year on year, which is a good thing, although you will see that is total movements, just to be clear. So it's not Air New Zealand specific. Air New Zealand have been down year slightly. Passenger numbers are down slightly, but that's total movements of aircraft, that one. Glacier country is a real highlight in regards to the gods shining down on us with better weather. So we've had good weather, good numbers of people around, and therefore movements are significantly up on last year, which is a good thing. Then there's a brief summary around some of the other areas that we manage, including wild foods. You'll see I guess the numbers attending. One of the things we really did focus on is being transparent around VIP, etc. So you can see there the different levels of people participating in the event, and well up over 6,000 participants came to the event. So, yeah, so that's cool. Continue on, and then there's a brief summary of some of the work we're doing with our housing portfolio. So a fair bit of work to maintain and keep those at a good standard of living as we work through, maintaining those assets in a good living condition. So there's a few things there that we're working through, but I'll pause there, I think, rather than waffling because you've read it, and then take some questions.
Thank you, Chris. Open to the committee for questions.
I have a couple to do with the wild foods information supplied and taking into consideration the report that came through this morning. You're talking about the number of tickets sold versus the information you supplied this morning. It's issued with 6,300, tickets sold with 5,400. That it's shared with 4,257. So I'm not too sure. It's very hard to understand from the financial reporting there what the true gate take was, the breakdown between VIP versus tickets sold, taken. There's a lot of other information in here, but as far as the actual true return, it's very hard to gauge from that report that we received this morning versus the report that's in relevant to today's meeting. Because the other thing is too is that with this report you've supplied us, it's talking about 25 and 24 comparison for the 9 months ended March 2025. But then when we look at the financials for 2024 for the wild foods that you supplied previously, the figures differ.
Sorry.
878 versus 549 supplied in 2024. So I'm a bit worried that for that 3 months missing, that there's substantial figures that aren't in this report.
We'll work through each of your questions one by one. So
Yeah.
we'll start with the participation, because participation, I think we'll start with the variance in the actual, because these are paid tickets, these ones, versus not. So
yeah. So tickets issued includes, total tickets issued also includes our store holiday tickets and our sponsors tickets and those as well. So there is a difference between the information. So the wild food ticket sales, we're able to give a final figure for that in a March report because the event has happened. Obviously, post the event, there's additional costs and bits and pieces. So that the financials that you've got there and the financials you've got in the quarterly report are different due to the timing of receiving certain things as well. The other thing to take into consideration with the revenue side is the management fee that's included in the March 2025 quarterly report is for 9 months of the year, whereas the management fee is paid over 12 months. The other thing with the managed services portfolio, that from a financial perspective is not just wild foods.
What other things?
So the managed services portfolio includes a wellness trail as well. It includes, what else is there? The digital hub, which is a managed service as well. So this report that was delivered for the quarterly report was delivered to the committee as a quarterly report. The wild foods report is a completely different report for a different purpose and extracts just that information for reviewing of wild foods.
Would you like to see a reconciliation to understand the difference in the
Oh, I'm well aware of the discrepancy between the 9 months and a full year. I'm not addressed that, but it's just very hard to see.
Yeah.
And I guess that leads to, this is an initial report what we sent through this morning. We look forward, as the Chair has said, to a further, more in-depth financial breakdown of the Wild Foods program and potentially some of the other reporting that's in here.
Through the Chair, one question, could we be made clear around exactly what detail you require in that financial report for Wild Foods so that we can make sure we do meet that expectation? So, what is it exactly you're looking for so that we can go with that report? Because we have no issues in working through that.
Good question. I think we should follow up in response to that in writing so that it's quite clear what the information is that we're looking for, and rather than try and describe that on the fly at the moment, I think we should just give that some quiet consideration so that it's a productive exercise for you.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Apples and apples in regards to what you're looking for.
Yeah. Very good. Any further questions? Okay. Comment for me, just on the aircraft movements. I think it was very good of you to highlight that the movements cover general aviation and the regional passenger transport. And so that data by itself doesn't really provide a lot of insight just by itself. And what airports normally do is provide that with the average maximum certified takeoff weight of the aircraft so that you get a trend. And what we would ideally like to see is the MC-TOW trend increasing. And if you have a predominance of general aviation, the MC-TOW trend will start going down again, and that means less earnings for the airport. So I think this is a nice step, but if you can, it should be readily available for you to do that.
Absolutely, we can break it down and that's for you, not a problem.
Any comment on the collection efficiency for general aviation aircraft movements?
Yeah, I can. So we have a system that's called AIM. So it uses ADSB and radio to ensure that we capture movements.
And for aircraft parking at the airfield overnight or for longer periods, how is that paid for?
That's a great question. There previously hasn't been a parking fee at Hokitika Airport. It's something we're currently looking at as part of what we're doing with this office.
There's quite a quantum step change, but it is quite normal for aircraft owners to pay for the luxury of having a park at an airport somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Steve.
Yes,
Just some high level, obviously revenue and expenditure are both down. They both directly linked to the removal of certain managed services last year. There's not any cost savings or any loss of income.
So specifics, I mean, there's ups and downs. Is there a specific area you're
Large ones worth noting, as opposed to just the removal of some managed services.
There's nothing significant. I don't think the majority of this is the change. So there's nothing significant that we would call out, otherwise we would have.
Thank you. And then obviously with that comes the overhead challenge of occupancy and operating costs versus less services to spread the costs. If we see a blip on that, yeah.
Yes, yeah. We haven't necessarily, don't you push on the precise, we haven't necessarily reduced not going to cost as much as potentially you would can. It's not like for like, move all those out, because they were shared services across a number of factors that we're looking after. It was very difficult to go, right, we'll just take that out and then take that out. So yes, you're right, occupancy costs haven't reduced by as much as what's coming out.
You know, you retain certain things that require a certain amount of resourcing.
Yeah.
You need to keep that resourcing until you have a clearer line in the sand.
And it's very small stuff that we have that really drives a lot of that.
Thank you. Great. Thank you. Any further questions before we move on? Okay, thank you. So I'd like to move that the Destination Westland quarterly report be received. Mover. Given the seconder. Thank you. We move on to item 7 on the agenda, the committee work plan, and I actually have really spoken about it a bit earlier in the meeting, that this appears to be the last meeting of this oversight committee meeting before the work plan that is in the papers is, if you like, a placeholder at this stage, and it's not determined yet what the new council, when elected, what they will decide to move forward with in terms of committee formations and so on. Okay, thank you. So I'd like to resolve that work plan be received. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Moving on to the next item on staff reports, the letter of expectation for West Roads. That letter was issued just after the last meeting on March 27th. And I'd invite the Chair of West Roads just to speak to whether that, just in terms of where you're at with your final statement of intent in regard to the letter of expectations.
Thank you. Received the letter of expectation, reviewed it. As I said earlier, we're doing all the actions internally, there's commercial aspects. We reviewed those in line with our statement of intent, updated that, approved at the last board meeting, and is ready to be submitted for the end of this month.
Thank you very much. And also then, Chris, will you just speak to your progress against the letter of expectation that you've received?
Yeah, exactly the same. We've worked through all the feedback. We also have corresponded directly with the chair on a few things, and we're now pretty well close to finalising the SOI, and we'll have that to the committee by the 15th of June, which is actually what our deadline is, to give you time to review and finalise for the end of June.
Thank you. There hasn't been any dialogue as such between the CCOs and the council after receiving those letters of expectation. So I assume that there are no issues that remain at large with what the council has asked for. I think that silence is concerned.
No, we're happy with it. What the board's requested.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that. That concludes then that section of the meeting, and I would now like to resolve that the Council Controlled Organisation Oversight Committee move into the public excluded section at this moment. Thank you. So we will now adjourn the meeting briefly whilst we move